Hi, hello everybody. Welcome to another Little English episode, and welcome to the season 5 of this journey. And so, for those who are new to this program, this is a journey for all of us to explore the inner world, the deepest of our understanding of ourselves. And through that, we gain a greater understanding of the outer world. And I would like to call this understanding your inner self, mastering life. All right. So season 5 is a little different compared to the first 4 seasons in a way that we don't have a presentation like this every day. Instead, we will have it once a week. And each of the presentation will be related to the previous one. Therefore, if possible, I encourage you to follow the program. And if you miss like a presentation or two, feel free to watch it again on YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel where you can um, follow and watch all of our presentation. Okay. So before we move on to the third principle, I would like to do a quick recap on the previous presentation on the second principle, activating the human brain. And this is my personal new favorite principle out of the four principle. So what this principle said is that it's borrowing the term reptilian brain, mammalian brain, and human brain to demonstrate each layer of our subconscious mind. And through that, we have a great understanding of why do we behave in a certain way, how information come to us, and what do we do with it. And because this information directly influence the presentation that we are doing today, the third principle. Therefore, I'm going to do a quick recap on the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, and the human brain. All right. So looking at the picture that I have here, what it is saying is that when information come to us, okay, so when information come to us, it has to go through the reptilian brain first. And the reptilian brain, it is very good at survival and is operating based on fear. Therefore, when information come to us, we at a subconscious level make a decision if the information is good for our survival or if the information is bad for our survival. If it is bad for our survival, it will stay at the reptilian brain. But if the information happens to be not necessarily to be good for our survival, but it is okay, it doesn't influence our survival, then the information would move forward to the mammalian brain, which is operate based on love and emotion. The interesting thing here is that if the information get further analyzed and if it's happened to be negative emotion that can cause us negative feeling to us, then the brain will kick it back to the previous one, which is the reptilian brain. And if the information happen to generate positive emotion, then that information will move to another layer, and we would call it the human brain. Similarly, when information get to the human brain, that is when we start to generate vision. And that vision can be a positive one, or that vision can be a negative one. And human vision is extremely, extremely interesting and critical because it is what makes us different from every other animal. And similarly, here, if the vision is negative, then again, it will kick back to the previous brain, which is the mammalian brain. However, if the vision is positive, then it will elevate, it will activating the human brain and get us to a greater understanding. Now, what do I mean by a greater understanding? The example that I want to give you is if you can help me imagine, not imagine, but help me think about successful people like Bill Gates, like Jeff Bezos, like Elon Musk, for example. They became very, very successful thanks to a positive vision of the future. In the case of Bill Gates, he has the vision of computer being in every single household, and he had the vision that in order for these computer to be useful, it needs software, and that is one of the main reasons Bill Gates start Microsoft was started Microsoft. And his decision literally changed the world, and that made him the youngest billionaire in the world at that time, and eventually became the richest man on earth during his time. For Jeff Bezos, it was similar. He had a positive vision of Amazon, a vision of a company that can offer online shopping. And eventually he elevated that to one day shipping, and it's literally changed the entire industry. Elon Musk, similarly, he not only had one vision, but many, many vision. And thanks to that, he was able to materialize Tesla, which is the most popular electric cars company. He also founded many, many other crazy company like SpaceX or like space exploration, put a tons of satellite up there, and many, many more. So as we can see here, by activating each level of the brain can generate or can materialize or providing us a very important set of skills. And each of these layer has their own application, and which is very, very, very valuable. So, but that is the presentation of the previous week. If you miss out, feel free to check it out on our recording. And obviously, in season 6 and many, many seasons in the future, we will go back to this and we will make a clearer understanding of this lesson here. So let's move on to today's topic. And this is the time where I would like to invite you to grab a new piece of paper. And if you have pen and paper, feel free to draw along the way. So that is the best way to learn. And today's topic is the circle of knowledge. And smart number 3 on the bottom left, to point out that this is the principle number 3. And this would be the circle. I'm just going to write circle instead of just the circle. This circle of knowledge. So there are many different names for this principle. But for the purpose of the presentation, we are going to call this the circle of knowledge. And this is the representation of the knowledge that we all have. And this principle is extremely important right after the activation of the human brain, because as you can see, each of the layer of the brain or each of the experience contain great knowledge in it. For example, the reptilian brain has some great deal of information on how to survive, and the mammalian brain would have a lot of experience on different type of emotion. And of course, the human brain contain many different vision that can be called knowledge. And the circle of knowledge will help us gain a greater understanding of what they are. So please help me draw a small circle on the bottom of the page like this. All right. So this eclipse shape here, I would like to invite you to write the word no and no. All right. So this is the representation of the knowledge that you know. Now, what is an example of that? The knowledge that you know would be like me knowing how to use a pen here to write on the piece of paper. This is the knowledge that I know. I know how to use Zoom. I know how to speak in English and know how to speak fluently in Vietnamese. So frankly, it is quite simple to know what you know. And let's just call this a circle. This circle here, it is a representation of all knowledge that you consciously aware of. But there is also another layer of knowledge that is greater. And this is a representation of the knowledge that you know, but you forget. And this circle is much bigger than the previous one because there are a lot of things that we know that we have learned, but we simply forget about it. Like all of the algebra class that I took in high school or calculus that I took in college, even though I did very well. I have like hundreds out of hundreds on that class. But if you were to show me a problem of calculus, then I wouldn't know how to do it. I mean, I can find information and I can try to relearn it. I can try to remember how to do it. But if you ask me right now, I wouldn't be able to tell you what I have already know about calculus. All right. But the beautiful thing is, even though you forget about this knowledge, you can always go back to learn. And I have experienced it this firsthand because back in 2010 or 2011, which were 2 years after I took my calculus class and finished it and got an A on that class, one of my good friends, John, asked me to tutor him on the subject because he thought that I was very, very good at math, which which was true. But to be very honest, even though it was only 2 years, I couldn't remember any of the knowledge in the calculus class. So I went online and I looked for all of the key information in that class, and I studied for 2 days, and I even took a test to see how much I understand the knowledge of calculus. And I got a very, very high score, close to 100, even though initially I did not remember it. But after 2 to 3 days, I was able to learn the the class that took me almost 2 years to complete. So that is an example of the circle of knowledge that you know but you forget. And there is an even greater circle of knowledge out here. And this would be the knowledge that you know that you don't know. What is an example of the knowledge that you know that you don't know? An example that I would give for myself is how to fly an airplane. I have never learned how to fly an airplane in the past, and therefore I know that I don't know how to fly an airplane. And that is different compared to the calculus class, because the calculus class I took in the past and I did it very well. Fly in an airplane, I have never done that. What about skydiving? I have seen people do it, but I have never skydived. Skydive is like you get on an airplane and then it's flew up really high and then you jump out with the parachute. Pretty crazy to me. So that's why I don't do it. But that is another example of the knowledge that you know that you don't know. All right. Last but not least. And I know there's a lot of information here, but we will explore why are these important. So there is another layer of knowledge called don't know. Don't know. So this circle of knowledge of don't know are the knowledge that you don't know that you don't know. So how can we give an example of don't know, don't know? About 20 years ago, when I first came to the US, I thought I knew the US because I watched a lot of Hollywood movie. I have seen Travel Channel, and I I picture the US as a very, very wealthy country. I picture the US filled with beautiful people walking around. I picture successful businessmen. But when I got here to the US, the city that I first at was a very, very small town, and it wasn't anything I have imagined. And the majority of that city are Caucasian people, like white people. But the years after that, I moved down to Washington, D.C., and I went to a school that had majority African American student and Hispanic student. The culture was very, very different. And then I found out that there are many part of the US that kind of ghetto, not as beautiful as they portray in movie. So at that time, I realized that prior to going to the US, there are so many information that I don't know until I experience it. That is when I make the information that I did not know, that I didn't know, to the knowledge that I know that I know. Because now that I have been living here in the US for a little bit over 20 years now, I know how the cultures are. I know the difference between Caucasian American and African American, even Latin American, Asian American. And what I'm saying is that these knowledge, it is possible to attend this knowledge. It is possible, okay? It is possible to gain knowledge from the circle of knowledge that you don't know, and make it to the knowledge that you know you don't know. And you will realize that those are the knowledge that you know that you forget. And then you can make it into the knowledge that you know that you know. This is extremely, extremely important. And I would like to bring back the activation of the human brain. And this is a figure for the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, the human brain. So, all right, think about this. I afraid of height. Do you know anybody that's afraid of height? And I didn't know that I was afraid of height until I first experienced it when I was younger, when I was standing up in the second floor, even the third floor of the building. And I realized how much I afraid of height. So the information from don't know is transfer from the circle of knowledge of don't know to the circle of knowledge of know. The amazing thing is I was right. It is good to afraid of height because you know what? If you were to fall over, you will get hurt. In some case, you might get killed. So it was very important to afraid of height and protect yourself. What about being afraid of snake? I didn't know that I afraid of snake. But when I first encountered it in Vietnam on my way to the beach, I was very young. I think I was like 7, and I was encounter one of those, like green color snake. It was very poisonous, and I know right away, instantly, I knew right away that it was dangerous. And there was cases of people who got bit and died because of that snake. It was very venomous. Now I'm telling you these two examples because there are knowledge that you don't know, but at the right moment, in a very short, in a split second, the knowledge that you don't know can become the knowledge that you know. Because in that split moment, I knew that I should avoid height. At that short moment, I knew that I need to avoid the snake. Okay. And this brings up a very, very powerful idea that Plato mentioned roughly 2,000 years ago. So Plato is a Greek philosopher, and he was famous for saying that everything that we are learning, we have already known. It is only an act of relearning what we have already known. And later on, many, many other philosophers said the same thing. So the argument is that everything that we need to learn, we have already known. We already have it inside of us. And learning is only an act of remembering what you have already known. And this principle, number three, the circle of knowledge here, it lay out for us how to attain knowledge that we have learned. Similar to the example of me afraid of height, similar to the example of me afraid of a poisonous snake. And this is extremely critical. On the perspective of science, we have learned that there are information passed down from DNA. And thanks to that process, when a human baby born, the baby would know how to cry right away, even though nobody taught the baby how to cry. The baby would try to breastfeed right away, even though the baby wasn't taught how to do that prior to being born. And if we were to look at the animal kingdom, a baby deer, after it was born, it already know how to walk pretty much. And then you can see example like this from all over places, all around nature. So there are information, whether it is encoded in the DNA or in any other way, it is almost an undisputed fact that we all come to this world with some knowing, if not all knowing. And when we are aware of this, it can be simpler for us to make the circle of knowledge of the don't know to the knowledge that we know that we know. And because of this phenomenon, some people call this the sixth sense. And you know how, like, for us human, we only have five senses. And people often talk about the sixth sense of how they have a very strong feeling of something was about to happen to their loved one. Or intuition. There are some people have a very strong intuition by picking up information that they wasn't even aware of. And that could literally save their life. All of that are example of attaining knowledge from the circle of knowledge of don't know. And this is very, very powerful. And if we were to borrow from the perspective of religions, we can see that we can see the argument uh, about karma, about how we can have like many previous life, and all of that influence on our knowledge, on the way that we live. And there's some merit to that as well. But the most important point that I want to make here is based on what Plato said. Plato, again, is a very famous Greek philosopher. He said that everything that we are learning, they are not new. It is simply an act of relearning this knowledge. And this makes a lot of sense when you start to analyze scientists like Nikola Tesla or Albert Einstein. They uh, they seem to do research and they seem to think a lot about a topic, and they come up with ideas with scientific formula that are so accurate, that are so aligned with the universe. But the question that we want to ask ourselves is that, are those knowledge, did they come up with it? Did they, was it something new that they invented, or it was already there and they only relearn it? They make the connection and attain knowledge this way. So if you study the like meditation, for example, or like I don't study religious text too much, but I have heard of story of the Buddha, of how he reached enlightenment using practicing meditation, and he was able to gain great understanding of the universe. I would argue that he was applying this principle, the principle number three, the circle of knowledge. And by going from the circle of knowledge that you know, as in knowing what you know, and then expand that circle of knowledge out to the know and forget, you are very aware of the knowledge that you know but you forget, and then you expand that out to the knowledge that you know that you don't know. Focus on it, focusing on it enough at a very special state of mind, state of understanding, state of meditation. One can constantly connect the knowledge of don't know to know. And those moments, I would like to call it the moment of enlightenment. That is when you reach a great understanding of something. And these moments can be found in scientific research. In Tesla, Nikola Tesla case, for example, Albert Einstein, and many other scientists, they have this enlightenment moment where they figured out the answer to their problem. They make the knowledge that in the don't know circle to the circle that known to them. And this is very powerful. This is how successful people like Bill Gates, like Jeff Bezos, like Elon Musk, this is how they was able to materialize their vision, because you can call it vision if we were to bring back the principle number two, activating the human brain, as you can see here. We can call it vision. but at the same time, we can call it knowledge, something that holds true. And thanks to these visions, that thanks to this very special vision of Bill Gates, of Jeff Bezos, of Elon Musk, they was ahead of the game for like 10 years, 20 years, even 50 years. They are still growing. So thanks to the knowledge that they somehow was able to acquire at the very young age, it was the foundation for them to become who they are today. So this is a very, very powerful principle. And with the right practice, you can attain the knowledge that is extremely, extremely powerful. Okay. A more practical, application for this principle is how to communicate with others. And let's say you are a teacher, this principle will help you communicate with your student better, help them learn better. So I would like to invite you to draw another circle up top. Let's draw it here. So similar to the circle of knowledge, know in the bottom, I would like to just call this known. And this is the representation of the knowledge that is known to you, that you know. And let's draw a bigger circle. And this is the knowledge that you know that you forget. I would like to call this the forgotten. Forgotten is 2T. And then another layer. The represent circle of knowledge of what you know that you don't know. I would like to call this the unknown. And last but not least, the outer layer represent the knowledge that you don't know, that you don't know. I would like to call this unconscious consciousness. I like to call it the unconsciousness because you don't know, Now, in order to gain knowledge, we want to make our unconsciousness our conscious, as in we are conscious of this information. We know of this information. We know of this knowledge. But what I would like to demonstrate today is how to communicate with others effectively, how to help others. So have you ever had a hard time communicating with others people where it doesn't matter how much you talk, he doesn't seem to get it. Even even teacher, even professor, even people with PhD degree, many of them had a hard time communicating, helping their student understand the knowledge that they want to demonstrate. And thanks to my teacher point out that, you know what, in order to help people expand their understanding, we have to start with the information that they know of. And oftentimes people start out with the knowledge that they know, and they use that information and they trying to talk to other people about what they have already know. But a mistake that they make is that just because they know it very well, and when they try to communicate it to the other person, it might fall under the don't know, or the unconsciousness of other people, and they don't understand what it means. Just because you know something, it does not mean that other people know it. And if you was to tell them, let's say if you was to tell them about um, the idea of space time, for example, and they are not familiar with it, they would be like, what the hell is space time, or that information is might also fall under the unknown to them, because that information they know that they don't know, and because they don't know it, it's gonna be very very hard for them to understand. But also, the information that you share is might fall under the knowledge that they know but they forget. Now, that would be an act of you helping them remember the knowledge, because they're only forgetting, but after a while, after you talk to them, they will know the knowledge, and then they don't get to learn anything new, because the entire reason, the entire meaning of talking to someone or sharing an experience with them is to help them learn something new. But if you only helping them remember what they already know, then it's not very exciting. And then there's a fourth possibility that what you know, they have already know. And then I guess the two of you will have a great time because you share common knowledge, and you can talk about the stuff that you have already know. But that defeat the purpose of helping others gain knowledge, because if they already know it, then there's nothing new to learn. If they know that they forget, you simply help them remember. Not very exciting at all. But if it's fall under the unknown and the unconsciousness, then that will cause them to be very confused. So how can we help someone gain better understanding? How can we help people gain knowledge? It's turned out that the formula that I showed you from earlier work when we help people learn new things as well. And it is working this way. We need to start out with what they know, starting with the information that they have already know. And I'm trying to think of an example. Okay. So for this circle of knowledge, for example, let's use the representation that we have here. So a few of you who is in the Zoom car right now, or if you were to watch the video, you will know that this presentation that I do today is very different compared to what I have shown in the previous season. So I start with what you know. You already know what the circle of knowledge is. And through the conversation, I introduce new information that expand a little bit further from what we have discussed previously. And that from the know, I take you to the information that you might have forgotten. So we expand your know to the forgotten. So we go an outward. And once we confirm the information that you know, then through conversations, through communicating, through example, I can get you to the outer layer of the unknown, as in the knowledge that you know you don't know. And if you don't understand it at the unknown, there's no problem. We can go back, we can go back to the forgotten. But if that is still confusing you, then we will go back to what you know. And then again, we can try to go to the forgotten and the unknown again. But if we are unsuccessful to attain the knowledge, then it will return. If we are unable to attain the knowledge, then we return back to the known. And if we can continue in this process, ultimately, we will be able to reach the unconsciousness. We will be able to activate something very, very special. And that is instantly gaining the knowledge of don't know. Instantly, you have your intuition to make the right decision. In a split second, you will know exactly what to do. And this is very, very powerful. Before I go into that example, I would like to just complete this, that if we reach to this unconscious level and it doesn't work for us, it will take us back. So if this is familiar to you, if this look familiar, and that is because of the illustration of the activating of the human brain. It works similarly that, depend on your state of mind, depend on the state of your inner self. When information come in, it can go to a deeper layer of your awareness, or it will kick back. And we have the formula here, right? If we were to compare this to the circle of knowledge, from the know to the forgotten to the unknown to the unconsciousness, we want to break through our barrier. We want to break through our fear in order to gain knowledge. We need to attain positive emotion in order to attain information, to attain knowledge. We need to have positive vision in order to attain knowledge. And as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4 layer of brain. And similar to here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 circle of knowledge. So there is a connection here So activating the human brain, in our case, in our language, it is the activation of the subconsciousness. Very, very powerful, because in that split moment, you can make what unconscious to you, what you don't know to what you know. And the amazing thing about this is that even though you don't know, it literally are the truth, the genuine truth of knowledge. Because all four of this circle of knowledge share the same truth. Because if you know something, it has to be true. Let's say I know how to use this pen. I know how to use Zoom. I know how to speak English. I know that the sun will rise from the east tomorrow. I know that to be the true. I know that to be a fact. So the circle of knowledge of that of know and forget, it has to be true as well. It has to be the absolute true. It is the genuine true. Similarly, the circle of knowledge of know, don't know, it is the absolute truth, that is genuine truth. So even though there are knowledge that you don't know that you don't know, it is the absolute truth, and we can activate it. We can have a great understanding of it. And that is what makes this circle of knowledge so powerful. We can even call it your intuition. And that's what Bill Gates did. That's what Jeff Bezos did. That's what Elon Musk did. Because one, they got the positive vision of Microsoft. Bill Gates just knew that it is the absolute truth, and he went after it. When Jeff Bezos had the knowledge of Amazon, obviously he didn't know that he didn't know, but when he get a grasp of it, he go all in, and he was able to make Amazon very, very successful. Elon Musk, we don't have to say too much about him. Very, very successful. In the smallest scale, as an example that I gave earlier about afraid of height or afraid of snake, you could call it intuition or whatever, but those knowledge come from the circle of knowledge of don't know, don't know. And that can save your life. There was a very amazing story that I heard from a podcast, Joe Rogan Experience. So in that episode, Joe Rogan had a guest, and the guest told a super interesting story about his grandmother. So the story goes that his grandmother was going on a date with Ted Bundy. And Ted Bundy, for those that don't know who he is a serial killer that was very, very well known in the U.S. I think it was in, I don't know the exact year, but it's probably in the 50 or the 40. So Ted Bundy is a serial killer, and during that time, he was unknown to the public. And the guest grandmother went on a date with Ted Bundy. And while they was minute into the date, the grandmother had an intuition. I don't know what she picked up, but she just knew that there's something very, very wrong with this guy that she was with. So she ran to the restroom. She called up her brother to tell the brother that you gotta come right away to pick me up from there. And when the brother got there, she just got out of the restroom and just left Ted Bundy there. And that realization there literally saved her life. So how did she know? What kind of information that she picked up from such a short interaction that has saved her life? I would argue that it's come from the don't know. It could be a body language. It could be like his eyes or the way that he behaved. Some in some text they would explain it as like a killing intense. You know how like in anime or in book, we were to read like an ancient text or story about war. People often describe the killing intense, and those information. For the example of the grandmother who survived Ted Bundy, at that moment, I do believe that she somehow activated her don't know, and she was able to pick up information that obviously she didn't know. She just followed her gut and act on it. So in her case, it saved her life. But if we were to expand this knowledge further, this is how many scientists come up with great idea. There are many stories of scientists who reach their end of life, write down so many uh, mathematical equation or many ideas that we still don't understand today. So where are those knowledge coming from? I would argue that it's come from the outermost circle of knowledge, the unconsciousness. So understanding this, we can have a realization that our knowledge is vast and we can attain knowledge from going in, go inward rather than going outward. And as my friend Giovanni put it, you know, tuition is when you pay money to school, that would call tuition. So you pay money to school to learn knowledge. Intuition, you see, like instead of tuition, intuition is when you go inward and you attain knowledge. But it's required practice, it's required understanding your inner self, understanding your inner world, and you would definitely attain knowledge this way. And I present to you the circle of knowledge. And that's reached the end of our presentation. I would like to thank you very much for being with us, being present. And I would like to thank my teacher, my mentor, who had shared with me this amazing knowledge that he has learned from many wise men. And one simple principle, but combined with activation of the human brain about, the formula of learning new lesson, apply the deep understanding, and find the answer to reach enlightenment. You will find a common theme that all of our presentation are interconnected. It will point to one destination, and that is the attainment of knowledge, of wisdom. And to that, I wish you health and wisdom, and I will see you next time. Thank you, and have a wonderful day or evening. All right, goodbye.